Hey guys, get to the video in just a second. We just got a couple announcements we want you to be aware of. Right now, it's July and we're having our big sizzling summer sale. Easy for me to say. We're giving away a Milwaukee cordless router package worth about $400. So click this video right up here to get all the details on how you can enter to win.
And then in mid-September, and we don't have the date set yet, but we will be there. We will be in Arkansas, somewhere around the Little Rock area. And we're going to keep you guys updated on our dates once we get them set in stone.
Yes, and then on October 14th, 15th, 16th, we're here on our property. We're doing our big Tribe Meetup. So, and there's no charge for that. Just let us know if you want to get involved in that. We're going to have a barbecue and just hang out for a couple days, maybe some demos, games, just kind of a get-together meetup thing. Should be a lot of fun. So let us know if you want details on that.
And then the weekend after that, October 21st through the 23rd, we will be in Hickory, North Carolina for the Klingspor Extravaganza. So if you guys are in the area and you want to do a meetup, our email is in the description down below. So shoot us an email if you guys are in the area.
And then, last but not least, in November 5th, we're going to be down at Woodworkers Source in Tempe. There's a big event going on down there, so we're going to be down there doing a demo. So come by and say hi at any of these events. We'd love to meet you and get together with you and hang out. So come and see us.
Yeah.
So now on with the video. Hey, good morning, you guys. We're starting a brand new project. So this one is actually for a family friend, some people that we know over in California, and we've got a couple signs we got to make. This one I thought was going to be a little bit unique, but it's our standard lettering, but it's a little bit unique in the board that we're using and the fact that it's an odd shape. So we're going to actually show the layout and the carving and the whole process on this video. This should be one video, hopefully. So this is the wording that we want. These are our standard Clarendon letters. We've got 1.5 inches. We're going to do these outset, and then we're going to do everything else inset. So you can see this is an odd shaped piece. I think it's walnut, something like that. It's a piece that we've had laying around for a while. It was something that Vicky was going to use for something, so she had previously done some green resin fill in a few areas, but it's just a really spectacular looking board. Looks like it might carve somewhat challenging, but we're going to find out. So now when you're laying out a sign like this that's an odd shape, it always becomes kind of what is kind of pleasing and aesthetic to the eye. I think I've got it pretty much squared up. This side, if it was perfectly square, we could go off of that, but it's not really a perfect angle, but it's close. So what I do is I kind of play around with it and tip it both ways till I kind of find what looks square to me, and that pretty much looks like the way I want it. So what we've got here now, I want that top line arch. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can put clamps here, you can put nails here and use like a yardstick to do that. But we have I also have some arches that I made a long time ago that I use for situations like this. So what I'm going to do, remembering that these are outset letters and I've got plenty of room this way, so I think I'm going to drop these down a little bit, and I'm going to have the top of my arch right around here, and I'll move these, kind of move these down out of the way. That's about where I want my top of my arch. Now again, being as there's no real square lines to go off of, what you want to do is just kind of correct both ways. We know that's off, we know that's off, and just try and find that sweet spot. And once we get this top line figured out, then everything else will measure off of that. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. That actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to back those off. I'm going to draw that line. Even though I'm up on some letters over here, I still think I'll be able to draw a line. Yeah. So now we'll get our letters on there. These are, again, our standard 1.5" Clarendon layout letters. I do want to go left to right and make myself a mark so I'm centered in the board. That's about 3.5. And there's 3.5. Something like that. Just strictly eyeballing this, since there's not a lot of square edges or square things to measure off of. When you're spacing these letters out, by the way, guys, I get this question a lot. I'm going to move those out a little bit. Actually, based on the fact that this kind of rounds down, I am going to squeeze it. I push it a little bit more this direction, so this will be a little bit different than from here to here, but because this round, I think it looks a little bit better if it's pushed more to the left or to the right for you guys. Again, getting back to what I was talking about as far as spacing. These letters can be almost right next to each other, and they read the best that way. Now, that is, you have to take into account if they're outset or inset. These are outset, so I need at least 1/4 inch to go in between those letters or thereabouts. Again, it's just kind of estimating. But what happens is, quite often with brand new sign makers, they put way too much space. Now, there's a lot of space here because I'm going to put an apostrophe. I'm going to draw that in and carve an apostrophe. But I've seen signs where there was that much space and people think that they need to fill up the whole length of the board. But that's not how the letters read well. They read much better when they're closer together. And this font specifically, especially, most fonts, but especially this font, reads real well when the letters are closer together. So that is my top line. Now what I can do is all the rest of the lines are going to be straight. So what I can do is I can make a measure a mark, and let's see, I want this is going to be down here in the corner. I want to give myself plenty of room for the cloud. So I think that this straight line here, I want it about there, something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'll take a mark, measure a mark, say 1.5" off of that arch, and that will be, let's see how that, it may be a little too low, but this is where it kind of
God bells?
Yeah, God bells. Yeah, you got to pay attention to that too. God bless our, gonna have to move everything that way. Family and home. Yeah, I think that will work.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Yeah, I think that will work. Yeah, because a cloud is going to fill up some of this space here. So that's my top line. And we do have a little bit of a contour to this board. So that's my top line. Now I could go ahead and remark that and have a baseline to put those, but I can figure out my lettering. Now these can be much closer together because they're all going to be inset. So you definitely want a different space between the words than you do between the letters. So now I'm going to center this line on this line. So so from there, say about 1 inch out and about 1 inch out there. That gives me my lines from left to right. So what I'll do is I'll put the first and the last. Yeah, I think that's going to be about right. Now I'm going to eyeball the spacing in between the words. That's a little too much, so I'm going to push those over. Now, what you can do, if you want to, you could use a letter for spacing. And what I mean by that is you could pick out any letter that you want, or you could use something like the width of your tape measure and just kind of get an idea from that, kind of eyeball it. Look, see, I've got not enough space here, so I want to move all of this, adjust all of this over a little bit to try and get all three of those spaces equal. Now, again, you could use something like this until you get used to eyeballing it, but that's pretty close.
Yeah,
that's pretty close. But again, I found lots of ways to kind of cheat when it comes to that spacing, but I've done so many of them now that I can kind of eyeball it and know where I want to be. So now what I want to do is draw a line for that bottom line there. Now here again, what I can do is I can go off of that top line and say about 2.5. Let's do that. So off of that top line, about 2.5 to our base. So it becomes, you know, guys, it many times on a sign like this, you're going to have more time and effort in your layout than you are in your carving. Once a layout's done, but if you don't do the layout right, your sign is not going to look right. That's just the nature of the beast. So now I'm going to space this off of here. So we're going to come say 5.5. That might be too much. And 5.5. But that gives me, yeah, it looks like that's about right.
Yeah.
So before I spray this, I'm going to go over all of the layout again, make sure everything is spelled correctly. I have it on my phone. But 7/29/2022. Now here, you can do several different things. You can do dashes, you can do dots, you can do slashes in between. I kind of like dots, honestly, because that just, I don't know, I think it looks cleaner. But I could do slashes too. So now, again, we want this line base to be square off of this line. So this line and this line is square. So now I can just kind of eyeball this. I want it down in the corner, and I'm looking at this line, and I'm looking at the yardstick here, and I can see that it's pretty square. That wouldn't be, and that wouldn't be, but that's pretty square. The same space here as I've got here. So I'm going to hold that down, draw our top line. It's been a long time since we did a video where we really did all the layout on this, and that's, Ryan and I were talking, and Ryan brought up a good point that many times when you're doing a sign and it's an odd shape, live edge or something like this, people aren't really knowing how to, I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing here, how to go about figuring that stuff out. And a lot of times, guys, it's just what looks good to you. But in a lot of cases, there are ways to figure that stuff out. All right, so I think, so we're going to have a period here. We're going to have a dot or maybe a dot in between at the middle part there. So here's something else we got to deal with. There's a little bit of a divot right there, which I don't like. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this over a little bit. These are 3/4 inch letters, by the way, letters and numbers. Let me see here. So I want to have that in between my numbers. Then what I'll do is I'll put a little piece of masking tape over that so we don't get any black down in there. Although on this color board, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
That looks good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. Yeah, I'm searching for any low spots. So I think we're pretty good there. So I've got to shake this can up. We're going to come back and then we'll spray this thing. I got to mask that off too. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, so what I'm doing here is I'm masking. I really don't want any black anywhere but just around those letters. So I'm just kind of being extra cautious and masking stuff off just so I don't have any black spray going any place I don't want it to. It will save a lot of time in sanding in case it does. And that black spray might have a lot of overspray to it. Ryan, would you go grab me some more tape?
Yeah.
Hopefully we got more.
Yeah, I think we do.
Now when you're spraying this layout stuff, guys, oh, by the way, we're using the primer. This is just the automotive version of the Rust-Oleum primer. It's exactly the same product as far as I can tell. That's just my opinion. I haven't been privy to Rust-Oleum's labeling or anything, but that's my opinion. You just, yeah. See, I did good on the 3/4 inch, and then I do the 1 inch, which shouldn't have been an issue, and I wasn't paying attention. Now, this is coming out pretty fast because it's warm out here. I should have had this in the refrigerator or cooled off, then it wouldn't be coming out near this fast. These things are wanting to drift on me a little bit. Got to keep this thing. And what you'll notice too, and I've talked about this on prior videos, this stuff, because it's warm and it should have been cooled off, it comes out almost powdery. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
See how that has kind of a powder look to it? And that's because this stuff is too warm. It should have been refrigerated. It still will work, but it's coming out too fast, and that's because it's warm and the air inside the can is now expanded, so it comes out faster. That's one of the issues. And the fact that it's warm and it's coming out kind of powdery now. And if you do masking before you do your carving, be sure and get all the masking tape off of there, every little piece, because that masking tape can get caught on your router base.
Nice shot.
2. That was a 3-pointer actually. See how that, I'm going to blow it off actually. See how it kind of muddles the lines a little bit, but there's still plenty of lines to go by. But if I don't do that, then the router base is going to stick on there. So now, let's just grab a cloth. Yeah, it's going to be kind of light through there. Yeah, and that's the difference. If this stuff had been cold, we'd have a nice crisp line to go by. But fortunately, Ryan's going to do the carving. Anyway, no, it'll work, guys. It'll work. But just, learn from my mistake. I should have cooled that stuff off. Then it would make a huge difference. It would look a lot better. Anyway, guys, that's that. We'll come back and start carving.
Okay, guys, Dad did all the layout, so I'm going to do the carving. So first thing we're going to start off is with our profile bit. And remember, you can get all our bits and the base plate and all the layout letters and stuff on the website right here in this area here at makeawoodsign.com. So because the top line is going to be outset, we're going to do the profile bit and go around the letters, and then we're also going to use the profile bit on the small inset down here, just because they're super small, and the 60 degree that we normally use, that we'll use for the 1-inch letters, it's going to be a little too fat. So I'm going to start off with these small letters just because they're a little more challenging, and it's always a good idea to do the more challenging stuff first. So I got this thing set at, what is it? Right about 3/16, which should be good for these, but if we got to adjust, we'll adjust. Let me throw on my glasses here. All right, let's get it done. Alright guys, so one thing, especially new carvers, they can get discouraged, right? There's a couple things you need to be able to carve a nice sign. Number one is the right tools, the right bits mainly, right? So the profile bit for this outline that we did is what you're looking for, what you want to get. But number two is having the right piece of wood or the right board or lumber, whatever you want to call it. This piece of wood is hard to carve. It goes from soft to hard, you know, it's like carving concrete and then carving butter. So keeping a straight line while you're doing that is a challenge. Plus it's got divots and stuff, so your base isn't really fully flat, but just something to keep in mind. The nicer the board you have and the flatter, the easier it's going to carve. So we finished up the profiling down here. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into with our 60-degree bit, and we're going to do the inset words here. Now for me, especially when I first started out, the profile was easier because I had room to mess up out here because all this is going to be gone. So I would just stay a little farther outside the line, then come back in and get closer. The inset stuff is a little bit harder. So I think because this is such a difficult board to do, I think I'm going to go real shallow first just to make sure I get a good line, then go back and go a little bit deeper. And Dad's layout and the muddled line isn't helping at all either, but that's all right. He's making me a better carver. Isn't that what you had in mind, Dad?
That's exactly my strategy.
I know.
All along.
I know what's going on.
I just thought I'd get that over on you and you wouldn't figure it out.
Oh.
You're smarter than I took you credit for.
I'm like a sleuth.
Yes.
I'm a sleuth.
Yes. You are.
Been using that word a lot. I like that one. All right, so these lines, except for this right here, these lines actually look a little better. So let's give it a shot. Okay guys, so we're gonna do like kind of a cloud around the Sperry's. You guys that have been watching for a while, you know exactly what we're talking about, but for anybody new, all the lettering is gonna stand out and we're gonna carve away everything behind it. If you've done it for a while, you can just kind of carve it, but it helps when you first start if you just kind of take a pencil and just draw, and it's just kind of a bump around each letter and then around the bottom. Now this is more free form and the line is more or less just kind of as a guide. You don't have to follow it, especially if you can't. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's just kind of a guide, and we're going to do this with our 90-degree bit, 90-degree V groove. I don't know why I cannot say that. All right, and I'm going to put on my glasses because apparently I'm a senior citizen. And this is
because the layout is bad. That's why.
See, that makes me feel better.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah, I can't say that on camera. Anyway, so This is my favorite part, so let's get to it. All right. That was tough. So now we got our cleanup done. What you want to go through, or you want to do, you want to brush all this stuff out, because you're going to have a little bit of high stuff, especially, you know, like right here in between the R's. So you take your skew. You take your skew or your pocket knife or whatever, and you just kind of chip some of that big stuff out. So I'm going to go through and do this, make sure we're not going to have any high spots, and when we come back, we're going to spray it and sand it off. So stick with us.
Okay, remember guys, before you spray, let's get all of those little chunks and stuff out of there. You definitely want a stiff bristle brush. Make sure that you get all that stuff out of there, and then blow it out somehow. If you don't have a compressor, get a little vacuum or something. Now we mask this off. We don't always do that, but we did here because there are a few surface cracks and checks in here, and we don't want any black to get down in there. So now we're using the primer. I've had this cooled against the air conditioner for an hour or so, so it's nice and cool. So now, I don't know, if you go back and look, it's not coming out powdery now at all. See, now it's not powdery, it's wet. So that's the difference between having it cool down or not. Now you guys may be in a climate that is not an issue for you, but it certainly is an issue out here in Arizona where we're at. So we're just going to spray this. When you're spraying, by the way, and it gets to a point where it doesn't want to spray vertical like this, like right now, there's nothing really coming out. Just turn it horizontal, get it going again, and then it's going to spray for you for the next few seconds. Or you could turn the nozzle, but I just tend to do it this way. So now I'm going to turn it from a different angle. I'm going to spray from this angle. This can is probably on its last third of black, so that's why it's kind of running out of ink after a few seconds, or run out of black primer after a few seconds. So that's all we need to do. We're going to let that dry, then we're going to come back and we're going to sand it off, see what it looks like. So hang with us, we'll be right back. All right, so let's get this thing sanded. So I've got a 60 on my disc sander, and then I've got a 120 on my random orbital. Here we go. All right, let's see what it looks like, guys. Yeah.
That looks nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Will you lift it up, Dan?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
So we're going to come back, guys, and we'll put a finish on this thing. So stick with us. We'll be right back, and we'll wrap this thing up. I think once we put the clear on here, I think it's really going to look spectacular. So stick around. We're coming up next. All right, let's see what it looks like with clear on it. Here we go. Oh man. Oh, look at that grain. Look at that grain, and look at that green.
Yeah, that green really comes out too.
Oh my gosh. Look at that. I love it. So we're going to put about 67 coats of this on there. Really build that thing up. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. Good job, Ryan. You nailed it, man.
Well, I do what I can.
Good work. I love it. All right, guys, that is it. We're really happy with the way this came out. Again, we're going to put a full finish on it, but you guys, what we're using on there is just this Rust-Oleum clear gloss. I like a gloss. Some people like a satin or a flat, but I like a gloss. We're going to put a bunch more on there on the back and on the edge and stuff too. But anyway, guys, I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please email me, eric@makeawoodsign.com, or Ryan with davesigns@gmail.com. And if you need any supplies, you know where to go, makeawoodsign.com. It's right up there. And hope this was helpful. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.